Peace, family. Welcome to another episode Underground Railroad Radio. I'm your host, Brother Rich, and I'm back with Professor Griff and Sister Zaza Ali. What's going on, y'all?
Peace.
Peace. What's good?
All right. Everything's good, y'all. Got an interesting topic tonight. Y'all always provide an excellent analysis and perspective on what's going on and the root of what's going on. So I definitely look forward to hearing y'all's opinion. Before that, Griff, I got to ask you, brother, I've gotten more emails in the last few days than I've gotten since you started doing the show with me this year. My question to you, Professor Griff, is everything all right, brother? People call me, they email me. Is Griff all right? Is he still doing the show? Why did he cancel Enemy Minds Radio? I mean, I'm like oblivious to Facebook sometimes, so I don't know what's going on. And people just started emailing out to me the blue, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Then you text me that day, and I was like, oh shit, I don't know what's happening. So just so you could provide some clarity to the people out there, the thousands of listeners that's out there listening. Is everything all right, brother? How is Enemy Minds Radio? How's Professor Griff? How's Sister Zaza Ali? Just, could you talk about that for a second, brother, if you don't mind?
No, I don't mind, and thanks for your concern, and thanks for the brothers and sisters that emailed you and hit you up, and definitely thank them for that particular concern. But Enemy Minds Radio is back on, and I think that had to be done. Number one, I think to confuse the enemy, and I think number two, to let some of these Negroes know you're not going to go up on Enemy Minds and pull down stuff to use against us at this particular time. You want to send your agents and imps to the Warriors Conference to come against us. I think we was going through multiple things at the time. One being, did you ever get the letter? No. A letter being passed around in the conscious community, Negroes and imps whispering in one another's ear about Zaza Ali, and this one was probably, from what we're hearing through the African grapevine, was more damaging than ever. They stepped up their attacks, so we had to basically kind of pull back to get these people off of us. At the same time, the police was calling me in for what happened at the Warriors Conference. King Noble decided to send his threats a week in advance and had the nerve to show up at the Warriors Conference, and he got confronted by me and my crew, and we had to entertain him. You understand what I'm saying? As a result of that, somebody, I guess a day or so days later, somebody called the police, and they ended up at my doorstep and ended up calling me on the phone to ask me to come in to make a statement. While all of that was going on, somebody broke in Irritated Genie's house while he was in Dallas. And was really coming after his family. You understand what I'm saying? So these demons and devils done stepped up their attacks using these black imps to do their dirty work and do their bidding. So just to let people know, man, just you let them know, Brother Rich, as well as myself and Zaza Ali, that we're fine. And we're going to be all right. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm glad you clarified that, brother. I'm also glad you're on the show tonight. And I'm most glad to continue to have your show, brother, because the information you provide is just, absolutely, dynamic. When I first started the show with you, Professor Griff, I heard you speak before, and I knew you was a deep brother, but, when I set out to ask certain questions, I play devil's advocate a lot, and I try to get...
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I need to get every possible perspective, and I don't need it just to be us agreeing with each other all the time, but I need to get every possible perspective. So I try to pull the very best out of you, and I have to say, Professor Griff, Sister Zaza, like it's a dance that goes on with the questions I ask and the answers that you give. It's a real dance. So I appreciate the time we've had together. Got a lot of love for y'all, too, and I appreciate the time we had together. And I know it's going to come to a day when I have to move on to what I have to move on, and you have to move on to what you have to move on. But before that day comes, man, I want to let you two know I do appreciate you two for having this dance with me on is what I wrote. Because I know it can be a dance sometimes. I know we don't agree on everything, and I have to say some things sometimes to bring certain things out of you. But I definitely appreciate the conversation we've had this whole year, and it has sparked. It has, it woke up the whole nation, the whole country. Like, I get calls, emails. I mean, like, the views that you guys get, I'm sure you get responses too. So I appreciate the time we had together. And, whatever your next step is, Griff, I agree with you because it's a personal step that nobody can understand but Professor Griff. The same with Zaza. Whatever step you got to make, it's personal. Nobody can understand it but Sister Zaza. But before our time, before whatever happens, if it ever happens where we can't do the show, I do appreciate this whole year, man. It's been magnificent. I learned a lot of things, and I want to get right into the show, y'all, with no further ado.
Wait, let me respond, Brother Rich, real quick. We appreciate you just as much, and I get a lot of messages from people who appreciate that you playing, quote unquote, the devil's advocate in the way that you interview and your style in interviewing. And just so you know, I usually watch pretty much all of the videos that you put up. The Phil Valentine video you put up recently with Black Dot was excellent. Everybody needs to go listen to that, as well as the recent one you had with Black Dot going in on Snoop Dogg and Iggy Azalea or whatever her name is. So we appreciate not just what you do with us, brother, but the platform that you have and your way of, I noticed you use certain personalities and certain scholars to get certain messages out. So you are definitely a multi-layered and multifaceted mind, and we appreciate you for that, for what you do as far as putting the word out, using us as vessels about racism, white supremacy, and what's going on with our people, to the metaphysics, to the higher levels of consciousness, to the, all the things you build on. We definitely appreciate you, brother.
And, Brother Rich, I also would like to say that people are seeing in Zaza what Griff seen in Zaza before I even seen Zaza. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And I seen this long before I even physically seen her. Saw her. Keep it up. Before I physically saw her. And I'm glad people are seeing it. And I don't want people to think it's old hat to me now. I think at this next phase that me and Zaza are kind of going through, I think I have to take on a different role. And I hope she understands it and appreciates it, take on this other role. Just like you, Brother Rich, have to pull this out of us, I got to pull some things out of Zaza. You understand what I'm saying? At the same time, continue to create a platform in which nobody else thought to build for Zaza. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody else thought to do. How long you been on the scene, sis? A few years. And why didn't anybody else see this? Just from her words. That to create a platform and say, listen, sis, get ahead and speak. I got your back. Do your thing. You understand what I'm saying? Now all of a sudden, motherfuckers want to bring roses and all kind of shit. It's like, okay, anyway.
Before we get to the show, man, I'm glad you said that. I just want to make this quick comment. I got a lot of brothers that come by my table, right, when I'm vending outside, or just call me and say, oh, man, Sister Zaza, man, where the sisters at like that? Oh, man, what a magnificent sister. She's beautiful. She's articulate. And the same thing, I remember when I had a conversation with Phil when we did the show about 12 Years a Slave, and the brothers was like, oh, man, Lupita, oh, what a beautiful dark-skinned sister, natural hair, what are sisters like that? And I'm like, they walk by you all the time. You're not paying attention. But when they get that platform, you notice them when they get that platform.
Right.
Your job is to notice them before they get that platform. Because they're there. They're there. So, it's just interesting that you said that, and I'm glad you did push her out there and just encourage her, whatever, Griff. Because, like I said, I asked Griff, the original intent of the show was just me and Griff. Griff said, I'm bringing Sister Zaza on. The sister's bad. She's magnificent. I said, cool. I didn't hear the Sister Zaza. But once I heard her, So, we definitely thank you for that, Griff, believing in the sister as a black man and not being intimidated, because the sister is strong. The sister does have fire, and some black males will get intimidated by that, sharing a platform with her. So I definitely appreciate that. As a black man, you are a shining example of, that energy that we should have, sharing it with our sisters, giving our sisters just as much limelight as we have, because it doesn't take away from our limelight. The appreciation is spread amongst us, and I appreciate that. Getting into the show, y'all, doing what we do.
Yes.
Recent comments made by Charles Barkley. We all know Charles Barkley, basketball player. And then after he made the comments backed up by Don Lemon. We all know Don Lemon. From CNN. He had the famous interview with Talib Kweli during Ferguson, and we just know him for doing what he's doing. Some may call it cooning, pure buffoonery, tap dancing. There's many names for it, but we know Don Lemon for doing what he does. I'm not going to judge the brother at this time, but we know who Don Lemon is on CNN. Charles Barkley, y'all, check this out. They were talking about a quarterback, Russell Wilson, I believe his name is, from the Seattle Seahawks. And the interviewer asked him something about the quarterback. Barkley went on to say that not being black enough. Russell Wilson was criticized for not being black enough. Charles Barkley went on to say, for some reason, we are brainwashed to think if we are not a thug or an idiot, you're not black enough. If you go to school, make good grades, speak intelligent, and don't break the law, you're not a good black person. There are a lot of black people who are unintelligent, who don't have success. It's best to knock a successful black person because they're intelligent, they speak well, they do well in school, and they're successful. It's just typical BS that goes on when you're a black man. One of the reasons why we are not, that we as black people are unsuccessful is because of other black people. There's a stigma that when you're doing well in school, you're acting white, or when you speak correct, you're acting white. That's bullshit. You're supposed to speak intelligent. You're supposed to do well in school. And when blacks denigrate other blacks who are doing well, that's part of the problem. Just because Russell Wilson is not a gangbanger, not a thug, that doesn't mean he's not black enough. He doesn't go to the clubs, but that doesn't make him not black. My first question to start the show, we deal with this type of stuff, on a weekly basis. So I had to get your perspective on this. First question, pretty simple before we get into more elaborate things. Do you agree or disagree with what he said? Doesn't have to be wholly, it could be partly, whatever you have to say. Is it an uncomfortable truth that we don't want to deal with, or is this just complete coonery by Barkley, who the black community sees as a coon in some respects, or Don Lemon as a coon in certain regards? What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, I think we need to contextualize who it is that's making these comments. I don't know whatever made Charles Barkley think that he was in a position to separate himself from the unintelligent blacks in American society that he's speaking about. Yeah, bro, you did your thing on the basketball court, but nobody's writing for you for your opinion on anything that has any social merit. And I'll give you a few reasons why. There is an article dealing with some things that Charles Barkley had, some controversial things that Tom Barkley has made in the past. When responding to the Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling's comment, he said, the problem I have with it, if anybody wants to be racist, that's all right. That's their thing. But when you're in a position of power and you can take jobs and economic opportunities from people, that's when it crosses the line. So here we have, apparently it's okay to be racist. It's all right to be a racist. That's your thing. He doesn't want to address the system of racism, white supremacy, or stand up like a man and address a man but he wants to sit around and talk bad about his people. Okay, cool. 2 white people. He, on using the N-word, he said, I'm a black man. I use the N-word. I'm going to continue to use the N-word with my black friends, with my white friends. They are my friends. In the locker room and when I'm with my friends, we use racial slurs. What I do with my black friends is not up to white America to dictate to me what's appropriate and inappropriate. Well, Mr. Barkley, for us intelligent thinkers who pride ourselves on being studious, on knowing our culture, knowing our history, and being the vanguards of what is represented to the world of our people, that makes you a nigga, and that makes you unintelligent. So you're probably speaking a little bit more to yourself than you realize. On George Zimmerman and the trial and the verdict, he said something clearly went wrong that night. Clearly, something went wrong, and I feel bad for anybody that loses a kid. But if you look at the case and you don't make it, ... there was some racial profiling, no question about it. Something happened to change the dynamic of that night, and that's probably not a popular opinion among most people, but just looking at the evidence, I agreed with the verdict. That, as well as Mr. Charles Barkley having a white wife, and in the book, Excuses, Dr. Mwali Mukebe Baruti quotes and says, whites do not fraternize or marry their inferiors unless substantial power, money, or psychological benefits are derived from such a relationship. In the international arena or corporate levels, you don't see any Chinese married to white people. You don't see any Fords or Rockefellers married to blacks because they know that you reflect that which you sleep with. He or she is your mirror image, is the first person you see in the morning and the last thing you see in the evening. With all of that said, just to kind of give us a better idea of what it is that we're dealing with and who we're dealing with, just because you have money, because you can dribble a basketball, this is why it's important for us to not hold these entertainers in such high regard. Because, bruh, you dribble a basketball. You made your claim to fame for being an athlete. Now, that's great that you have physical prowess. We applaud that. We love our athletes. But you do not set the standard for who and what black people is. I'm getting so sick and tired, and it seems like this is happening more and more. We just did a show about this with Raven Simone and Lil Bobby or whatever his name is. And then T.I., yeah. This whole idea, of taking the worst aspect of what the system of racism, white supremacy has produced, not who we are, but like I always say, God didn't make niggas, the white man made niggas. To me, when you say black and what it means to be black, I think history, I think culture, I think excellence, I think God, I think being refined, I think being studious and being a hard worker. All of us hard workers, all of us know in our family, we grew up knowing you have to work 2 to 3 times harder in this society to get ahead. Did you hear that, Brother Rich?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this idea that our people are somehow the gum on the bottom of the world's shoe just goes to show, the self-hatred. You think you're attacking us. You're pointing your finger out. No, you're actually talking about yourself. And the comment about the crabs in the barrel, who built the barrel? We keep talking about how we stepping on top of each other to get out of the barrel. Who built the barrel? The crabs are supposed to be in the water and in the sand roaming free. So and Don Lennon, seriously, bro, you don't even speak for our people. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to even address him in a serious manner. Like, you're a homosexual. You've already been put on blast by Talib Kweli. He doesn't speak for our people. But this is what we, as a people, young people who listen to your show all the time, we got to start bucking back at these people. Not just you a Tom, you a coon, but being studious, being intelligent, being mindful about how we carry ourselves. Do white people look at Charles Barkley sideways when he talks black, when he says nigga? Does he mind that? So I think, it's up to us. Barkley is irrelevant to me. Like, these people don't mean anything to me. They don't speak for our people. But it's important for us when these things happen to stand up and counter the attacks and let people know, no, that's not who we are. Those might be niggas, and there's rich niggas like Charles Barkley, but that's not who and what we are. You and Griff are more akin to what a real black man is than Charles Barkley could ever be.
Very well put. And Brother Rich, just to add on to that, and I think that question was thoroughly wrung out by Zaza, and I don't want to overstate what she laid out and overstate the obvious. But we do have to understand, in support of what she said, that racist and white supremacists subconsciously instructs Negroes to defend racism and white supremacy to the death, to the detriment and to the death of their own people. I guess Charles Barkley, when talking about unintelligent blacks, I think it's very intelligent, or can I ask a question? Is it intelligent to marry your slave master's children? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what's real intelligent here, what's really intelligent. So we have to first define black, and then what is not, or what is acting black enough. So if we're able to define this whole idea of acting black and defining black, I think we can get to the root of Charles Barkley's ignorance. What is the term that I use in the lecture? Psychoneurosis? Mm-hmm. Psychoneurosis. These sick, silly Negroes walking around here thinking black is a color. You understand what I'm saying? Zaza just said when she thinks of black, she thinks of God. Thank you.
Now, is it more about who said it instead of what was being said? And I think we might have discussed this in our very first show when it came to the message and the messenger. Now, if Farrakhan had said this the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had said this very same thing, some people may have said Farrakhan's keeping it real. We need to stop the crabs in the barrel in the black community. But because it's coming from a man who's married to a white woman, we criticize the messenger more than listen to the message. Now, from personal experience, I have been a victim of people saying, you don't act black enough. I remember when I was younger, a distinct memory when I was younger, of having a Barnes & Noble bag. I'm about 19 years old. I got a Barnes & Noble bag, and some girls in my, you call it the hood, neighborhood, whatever name you want to have for it, says, what you doing with a Barnes & Noble bag? Now, I've always been attracted to a woman with a little sass, so I like my girls in my neighborhood. I like girls with a little sass. I need that, some sass. I need some attitude, something. So I kind of felt the girl, before she said that. I wouldn't have had a problem if the girl, wanted to go out for dinner or something. But when she said that, it kind of threw me back in the sense of, damn, I might have to change who I am if I do want to talk to the female. My girl went through the same thing. Countless brothers went through the same thing when they try to talk to other individuals in the same race as them. So what Barkley said can't be too outlandish because people are going through it. And I'm speaking from personal experience. That's just one example, but I could bring up 4 or 5 more if you ask me to. Not saying he over-exaggerated, but going back to my original question before I went into that, are we too concerned with the fact that it's Barkley? Nigga, you married to a white broad. Nigga, you spit on a fan before. Nigga, shut the fuck up. Are we more concerned with that aspect more so than we need to stop this crabs in the barrel mentality that exists within the black community?
Well, brother, that's not the gist of what he said. If he had just said we need to stop this crabs in a barrel mentality in the black community, then we'd be having a more rounded dialogue, which I've heard Minister Farrakhan as well as all of the prominent black scholars and teachers say. What he said is we as black people are never going to be successful. That's a very definitive statement.
But he started out, though, unfortunately, and he started with his white friends.
Right.
So he set the tone.
Exactly. We as black people are never going to be successful, not because of you white people, talking to white people, but because of other black people. When you are black, you have to deal with so much crap in your life from other black people. He said for some reason we are brainwashed to think if you're not a thug or an idiot, you're not black enough. If you go to school, make good grades, speak intelligent, and don't break the law, you're not a good black person. It's a dirty, dark secret in the black community. There are a lot of black people who are unintelligent, who don't have success. It's best to knock a successful black person down because they're intelligent, they speak well, they do well in school, and they're successful. It's just typical BS that goes on when you're a black man. That is a very degrading and disrespectful way to speak about your people, especially when you're speaking in somebody else's house. Is the crabs in a barrel ideal reality? Of course it is. But like I said before, who made the barrel? How did we get in the barrel? And then you, as a multimillionaire, what are you doing to change it? Or are you furthering the problem with the way that you talk and discuss who and what we are as a people? We as black people are never going to be successful, not because of you white people. So I guess Eric Garner, Mike Brown, all of the killings that we know about, that I know he knows about, none of that stuff is relative. This whole idea of making good grades and speaking intelligent, when you're intelligent and you get mature, you understand that when you grow up around ignorance, of course there's going to be a backlash because you're an intelligent person, because everybody wants to be intelligent. All the poor people want money, so they want to bag on the one who has money, who has nice shoes. But this idea of, for some reason we are brainwashed to think if you're not a thug or an idiot, you're not black enough. Who the hell are you hanging around? Where did you grow up? It's so disrespectful to me. And I know we talk, we deal with the issues, dysfunction of our people, but there are so many brothers and sisters, way more brothers and sisters getting up every day, working hard, doing what they have to do to put their best foot forward than there are thugs and idiots in the street. And it is extremely disrespectful for us to take a small margin of our people who have serious issues, just like there's a large population of poor white trash who get food stamps and probably chew tobacco and missing teeth in the front of their mouth and smell like dead popcorn that's around this country that nobody ever talks about.
Right. Good point. Okay.
So stop trying to marginalize who we are as a people because of a small faction of who we are. I've met brothers and sisters all across this country who work hard not only for their individual lives but for their communities. So to you, Charles Barkley, I ask, since you have so much and to whom much is given, much is expected, what are you doing to make a change with the ignorance and the dysfunction that's plaguing that marginal aspect of our people? Or are you just sitting on your fat butt talking smack to white people, but you won't never talk smack to white people about white people? When are you going to do that?
Okay.
Brother Rich, this whole idea, I just want to focus on these 2 points. This whole idea of making good grades. When I read that, it kind of set me back because as an educator, and I'm sitting across from an educator, making good grades in what subject? It's not the end all, be all. Right, it's not the end all, the be all. Making a good grade. How many billionaires we know right now that dropped out of college? A few, right or wrong. So it's not about making the grade. You know what that says, Brother Rich? That says, let me go to college, let me go to school to be a good nigga for white people, and let me prop up and hold up racism, white supremacy by getting the good grade. So I can end up with a job like Don Lemon. So when you talk about making a good grade and the whole idea of street cred, listen, right now, Professor Griff has street cred, and I ain't never been to jail, and I don't wear that as a badge of honor. But I got street cred. You understand what I'm saying? There's different ways you can get street cred. Never smoke, never drink. Right. I got street cred because I know martial arts. Maybe because I'm a disciplined brother. Maybe because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't hang out like that. But I got street cred. I can go in the streets, and I have credibility among the brothers that's in the streets. So you don't necessarily have to do a bid or bring bricks in, the Marcy Project, as your man Hove would say. You understand what I'm saying? Right. You can get street cred on different levels. Let me tell you something, Brother Rich. Unlike Zaza, I didn't make the good grade. I was a C to D, on average, C to D student. Those were the grades I was getting. You know why? I was fighting it tooth and nail, man. This racism, white supremacy, this madness that they were shoving down my throat in the educational system. All I wanted to do is regurgitate them damn lies back to that cracker. Give me my goddamn diploma so I can get out of here. Because I'm tired of y'all lying to me. You understand what I'm saying? So, no, I didn't get the good grade. Me not getting the good grade prepared me for what I need to be doing right damn now. You understand what I'm saying? And this is very, very real. Malcolm. Did Malcolm get good grades? Did the most honorable Elijah Muhammad get good grades? 4th grade. That's 4th grade education. You understand what I'm saying? Most of the brothers that I know, Brother Richard, you could probably make the same conclusion. Most of the brothers we know in the conscious community that are brilliant scientists probably damn near flunked out of high school.
Now, Professor Griff, with that being said, I was going to save this question for later, but it's the appropriate time to bring it up, obviously. He talked about, obviously he's talking about educated black versus non-educated blacks. But my question, Griff, is why do you, with that being said, what you just said, you fighting against the system. You mentioned the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, amongst others. Why do you think, you and Sister Zaza, why do you think black women excel in school way more than black males? Higher graduation rates in high school and much higher college enrollments and college graduation rates than the black males. Why is it that black women are excelling so much in this westernized school system more so than black males?
Okay.
I'm really glad you asked that, brother, because we saw what happened with Malcolm X and what he talked about in the autobiography of Malcolm X, how he said his teacher told him that you were never going to grow up to be anything and that you can't be a lawyer because your people, Negroes, will never respect you. Well, my son is 11 now. When in public school, he was dealing at the age of, I would say from 6 up until 10, with racism in his school. He went to a public school in California, one of the best schools in the Bay Area, predominantly white, affluent neighborhood, but as far as academics, it was one of the best schools in the Bay Area. And, of course, my son has knowledge of self, so he knows who he is, he knows his history, and he is very persistent when he sees wrong, especially racism. So he was able to verbalize and contextualize what it was that was happening to him in his classroom and at the school. Now, my son has knowledge of self. He has a strong mother and father that have instilled certain qualities in him to where his mind and his spirit are not going to be broken when he's in the presence of devils. Most of our children, boys in particular, do not. And Jawanza Kunjufu, in his book, help me, Griff.
Destroy Black Boys?
Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, Part 1 through 4. He talks about it. I'm glad I read this book before I even had my son. The fact that in the school system, in the elementary school system, that they are intentionally messing with the minds of our young boys. When they're young and cute, 5, 6, missing teeth, still adorable, it's not that big of a deal. But once they start to get some size on them, right around 10, 11, 12 years old, they start to naturally engage in their independence and speak their mind and, put forward that inquisitive natural mind that they have. They start to get shut down in the school systems. So this is what's happening all across this country. It's not necessarily that black girls are excelling because we are better. No, it's not that at all. It's that black girls are not as threatening as black boys are. And if you look at the racial dynamic of the teachers across this country, the majority of them are suburban white women. So I think less than
afraid of black men
who are afraid and who have been ingrained to be afraid of black men.
Right.
So suburban white women in the school system with our sons, they already, whether consciously or subconsciously, have seeds in their mind of how to interact with black boys. And we live in a society that has taught black women to be afraid of black boys and black men. So this is this is the mixture that we're dealing with, and Umar Johnson talks about that in his book as well. So you have black boys who are trying to find themselves in a world that's already got a target against them, and it's a slow, methodical process. And if I hadn't been at that school, on those teachers behind, serious about my son, and very focused as far as how they were treating him and who he knew he was, he could have been extremely damaged from that situation. They did a whole case study at his school because of some of the things that my son was writing in his journal about how the yard teachers were racist and were picking on him and making him sit down for things that the white boys never got in trouble for. So this is the reality of what our sons are going through, and by the time they reach middle school, they are completely disconnected and disinterested in the school system. Opposed to black girls, now we also have the issue of 70% of the households being raised by black women, and that saying that we raise our daughters and we love our sons is an actual fact. So we are preparing our daughters to be independent, to go into the school system and excel, and we are coddling and nurturing and loving and comforting and almost making our sons our second husbands, opposed to disciplining them, opposed to being hard on them, opposed to preparing them for what this world has to offer them. So it's a lot of different dynamics that's happening here. But it's not that black girls and black women are so far ahead of black. I can't stand when I hear these sisters say that. Well, I got a bachelor's degree in such and such, and I got a master's degree in this, and I can't find a man who has a master's degree. You haven't mastered anything. So why do you have a master's degree? You're still trying to get a job. Right. I have 3 degrees. They're pieces of paper. It's that I respect the brothers, man. I'm telling you, I have met some of the wisest brothers and sisters who have knowledge of self, who go and buy books and study themselves and have that knowledge of self, because it's a difference between learning and between being a knowledge seeker. So peace to the knowledge and wisdom seekers. But that whole idea of measuring ourselves as a people based on what grades we get, what level of school you went through. If you didn't go through an African-centered or a black school that gave you knowledge of self, we need to turn that around and stop measuring who we are based on what the society says.
Brother Rich, how is it possible to come behind that?
I don't know, Griff. I don't know.
I can't, bro.
Let me move on to this next question, Griff, and you can start out with it. My next question, Griff, is why do you think the negative characteristics that exist in black people are put under a microscope more so than any other race? If we want to call it race, or, we have different, you got the Jews, you got the so-called Jews, and you have the so-called Hispanics, and, the so-called Chinese, so-called everything, because everything is so-called, I guess. But it seems as though the negative characteristics that exist within the so-called blacks are put under this microscope more so than any other race. When we have, even if we're talking about an issue like crabs in a barrel, it's crabs in a barrel in every race. But when it's crabs in a barrel in the black race, it's under this microscope and everybody examines it. And it gets, they say the dirty laundry gets aired out in the black race more than any other race. And there's also a saying that says, when the white man has a cold, the black man has pneumonia. So, Professor Griff, why is this so, Professor Griff?
I think, to answer that question very directly, I think these people are really keeping their fingers on the pulse and constantly refining and making sure racism, white supremacy is well-oiled and well-tuned to the point where they know and understand genetically that black men can be directly responsible for causing white genetic annihilation, and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing teaches us. So the attack has to be on the dark, melanated black man. So then we have to check on him. We have to see whether or not if racism, white supremacy is still working. And if it's not, we got to send our lapdogs like Charles Barkley out to make sure. We have to get some deranged, sick Negroes like T.I., Little Bootsy, Raven Simone, the American, to make sure and put them out in front to make sure that we keep the delicate balance. And we have to keep enough of them sick, self-hating Negroes out in front of black people to make sure we keep things in check. We can't ever let the vast majority of them listen to Brother Richard's show, listen to Professor Griff and Zaza Ali and get knowledge yourself. We can't let that happen, because once that happens, we're going to start questioning things and getting our act together. You understand what I'm saying? So they have to keep racism, white supremacy at the forefront. And even if people are consciously or subconsciously realizing what's going on, racism, white supremacy is always at work. It never takes a day off. So when you hear Charles Barkley and he talks about unintelligent blacks versus him being successful, is he subtly saying to us or subconsciously saying to us, success is work for the white man, dribble the ball, get a couple of rings, then get the white woman, and you're fine and you're successful? Is that what he's saying to young black men? I wish Zaza had $40 million slave in front of us and we could break this thing down. But Charles Barkley needs to know, just because you've assimilated and you have this whole idea of trying to morph your way into white people's bosoms to be accepted by white people. Let me tell you something. You let the economy get really bad and this cracker start showing us who he really is. That Negro will be out in the goddamn street. That cracker don't care nothing about Charles Barkley. And Charles Barkley better goddamn realize that.
You know, Brother Rich, I know I said this on the show before, but it begs to be mentioned again. You know, two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. We talked about, first of all, our people outnumber Europeans. The statistic that's been thrown around so long is 11-1. I actually think it's probably more than that, but we'll settle on that number. So if we outnumber population-wise Europeans 11-1, if we start thinking about those numbers, then we can kind of understand why they are so insistent on putting us under a microscope, as you said. And it's not just putting us under a microscope, it's the constant intervention in our affairs. It's the idea that my son, a harmless 7-8-year-old boy with nothing but potential and talent, you know, a little cocky on the basketball court, but, you know, just full of potential and innocence. The idea that white men and women alike could be intimidated by him, a child, all right? We're talking about, and I remember you asked the question before, why are white men so intimidated by black men? You know, why is it that the Magic Johnsons and whatnot are intimidated to Donald Sterling when Donald Sterling has all the power and all the money? And I said, well, it's not just the big basketball players, it's the little geek in the library sitting in the back who's doing his study and who's not bothering anybody. Somebody will come up and mess with that young brother and try to figure out what he's reading and getting inside of his head. Anytime you're on a bus or a train, and I've heard people mention this, brothers mention this all the time, but it happens to me as well, they always want to know what you're reading.
What you're reading, yeah.
Why are you so interested in why are you so interested in what I'm reading? You know what I'm saying? And then when I hold the book up and you see it's Elijah Muhammad, then you want to go sit in another seat. So you don't want to have that conversation.
To one cracker, none of your goddamn business.
Exactly. So it's like when we look at this from a historical context, all of our ancient civilizations, whether it's the Americas when it was black owned and operated, because this is our land, Africa, the Cushitic people, Nubia, Kemet, when we talk about the Moors in Spain, when we talk about the Moors all over the planet, anytime our people, I'll ask you, Brother Rich, was there any time, as far as you know, in history when our people were ruling that Europeans ruled at the same time?
It's one or the other.
Okay, so two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. The black man and woman, the black man in particular, is a natural ruler. So in order to keep him from being a ruler, they have to stay inside our boys' heads in the school system. They have to keep laws that recidivate or that recycle the prison industrial complex. They have to spend more money to keep you in prison than spend more money that they spend keeping you in jail. This is why we talk so much about racism, white supremacy, because in did I say jail or school?
You said jail.
In school.
Right.
Okay. This is why we talk so much about the system of racism, white supremacy, because there is a war going on. It's not just the fact that they are highlighting our dysfunction and craziness on reality TV and on, news media and whatnot. That's just the smallest aspect of it, but that's what our people like to talk about. So you want to talk about celebrities? Cool. Brother Rich, have us on. We'll deal with Charles Barkley and Lemon. But the bigger aspect is that there is a serious war that's happening. They will not leave us alone. They will not leave us alone. It's true. So the question is why? No, it's not just money. I hear people always say that. It's always money. Slavery was all about money. Prison industrial complex is all about money. It's always bigger than money. It's who we are naturally. We are the people of God. And it me to hear these Negroes disrespecting and talking down about our people. We are the baddest, flyest, just rawest people on the planet to me, black people in America, and I'm not downing any of our people around the world. I'm just saying this is where I'm from. I'm representing, not where I'm from, but who I am. I'm representing us. We're the best. And, of course, if you're in Africa, Zimbabwe, or in South America, you're going to feel the same way about your people there. But we are the best. Imagine what we could be if they would leave us alone.
Brother Rich, there was a question that Jason Orr had put out. He said he was interviewing Speech from Arrested Development. Jason Orr did the movie Diary of a Decade, dealing with black music. He had asked Speech a question, and Speech said to Jason Orr, he said, can you imagine how hip-hop would be if it's not filtered through the hands of our open enemy? If we just left it alone? That came to mind when Zaza made that statement a few minutes ago about them just leaving us alone. You see, Brother Rich, they can't leave us alone. These people are some cultureless people. They have no culture. And they have to stay tapped into black people in order to just feel the pulse of the planet because they know we tapped in cosmically, and they have to stay tapped into us.
Brother Rich, real quick, there's a book that I'm reading, just started reading, called Breaking Ranks. It's by a former police officer called Norm Stamper, and he has a chapter in the book called Why White Cops Kill Black Men. And he says, in no uncertain terms, that white men are afraid of black men. They teach it when he was in police academy. There is this language that they speak amongst each other that re-emphasizes and reiterates the fear that white men have of black men. Now, you add a gun and a badge and a justice system and a police system that backs you up, what does that equate to?
Racism, white supremacy.
I have 2 more questions before we end this show. First question, y'all. This is directed sort of directly to Professor Griff. Considering what has happened in the past week, you text me, you said you were ending Enemy Minds Radio. The viewers emailing me, asking me about, what's going on. Extremely concerned about, was Professor Griff a riot? Is he going to still be on the radio show? Are you a little more did it make you a little more sympathetic with the message Charles Barkley is conveying, in the sense that it's going to be somebody black that come after you instead of somebody white? Because, like you said, I forget the exact term you used, lapdogs, I think you used early in the show. But because you say they said they're quote-unquote lapdogs toward you, and you felt something toward somebody of your own race, does it make you look at this whole, does it make you change your perspective a little and make you say, oh, man, you know what? This shit might come from it may come from my own kind before it comes from the white man. Does it make you look at it or be sympathetic to what he says a little differently, Professor Griff?
No, I'm not sympathetic, nor am I empathetic to what Charles Barkley said, simply because if they sent a black detective to come put white handcuffs on me, I know and understand racism and white supremacy. I know it's a system, and I know this black man will probably get there and be like, aren't you Professor Griff? Yes, because it had happened to me before. I got pulled over by the police. The black officer recognized who I was, and all of a sudden, his guard goes down because he knows me and he knows he can trust me. You understand what I'm saying? And we had a nice conversation, and he sent me on about my way. Now, I got to go through the 8th, 9th, 3rd, and 4th degree with the white officer. I got to yes sir him to death to get him out of my face. Are you following me? Brother Rich, and I'm saying this hoping that young black men hear this. I know when they pull me over or they come in to get me, I know I'm caught behind enemy lines. I know the brother don't know what he's involved in. Some of them do, because some of them have taken the oath. Most of them don't. They want to go home at the end of the night. They're just doing their job. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not knowing they're perpetuating and upholding racism, white supremacy, as Zaza mentioned in this book, Breaking Ranks, by Norm Stamper. And, Brother Fitch, we need to get this book and study that simply because we need to do a profile on those that are profiling us. Are you following me? So, Brother Rich, I understand that the black police officer may not understand the entire full scope of what's going on with the mass incarceration of black men in the prison industrial complex. I understand that. But I truly need young black men to understand that we need to understand that the black officer may not understand the full scope and then act accordingly. Are you following what I'm saying? So, no, I'm not sympathetic towards Charles Barkley. I understand what's going on in the hood. I understand this whole idea, Brother Rich, of the project or the project. It was a project, Brother Rich. You ever do a high school project?
Right.
Okay, you probably had your mom, your dad help you, your cousin.
Yeah, helping you.
It's a project. You get a grade, and you move on to the next phase. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
It was a project to stack black people in these little concentration camps to see how we would act. Throw drugs in there, throw diseases in there, throw money, guns, all right, a few snitches, a few Uncle Toms, and let's see how they operate. It's like the rat in a maze. They ring the bell, you go through the maze, they'll go get the cheddar, go get the cash, go get cream, because cash rules everything around me. Are you following me? And this is very real, so I'm not sympathetic, nor am I empathetic. Charles Barkley is a Negro, an unintelligent Negro, married to a pet.
That's
I hear you. That's good. All right. My final question, y'all. There's kind of a, how can I say this? There's kind of a contradiction that's floating around, or a difference of opinion, or I don't know what you might want to call it, but and I want to get your take on it. There's a certain sector of quote unquote blacks, what do you want to call blacks, Moors, natives, gods. We have all types of words for ourselves. We know who we are. Indigenous, we know who we are. But there's a certain section of us who says black people can only reach a certain level black people can reach a certain level of success in this country because of the way it's structured, that there's only a certain amount of blacks that can get to the pyramid is structured a certain way. And there's only a certain level that can fit at that top because of the way it's structured. in order for white supremacy to exist. You know, so there's only a certain amount, only a small amount that can exist at that part. There's another part of blacks that says, you know what? Imagination is the limit. There's no limits with God. We could do whatever we want as long as we believe, as long as we have faith. There's different words they use. They use faith in whatever your belief system may be, Islam, Christianity, whatever. They may use imagination. Whatever they may use, they will say that sky's the limit, or the limit is as far as your imagination can take you. Now, we have these two contradicting philosophies that kind of collide with each other. One with there's limits because there's white supremacy. And then you got Charles Barkley. You got the uneducated. The reason why I'm asking this is because it ties in with the uneducated. He's saying uneducated blacks and educated blacks and whatever, you know. So what is your take on these two philosophies? Because they're always colliding with each other. One saying, I could do whatever the fuck I want to do. I'm God, nigga. And another one saying, another one saying, you know, I can't do it. I just can't do it. The system won't allow me to do it. Is it a right and a wrong? Is it a right and a wrong? I need to get your opinion on it because I keep hearing conflicting thoughts on this. What's your take on this, y'all?
Well, that's a very, very good question, and there is no contradiction when you have the proper understanding. You talked about you can only reach a certain level of success in this world, in this system of racism, white supremacy, and only a small number of our people can be successful in this world, in this system of racism, white supremacy. And we are seeing more and more that gay black men and black women are being pushed towards the forefront to make it look like the system is slowly but surely, you know, opening up to be more accepting and that we are making strides in the society. Now, you said, you know, that the flip side of that is unlimited potential, faith, whether it's in religion, whether it's in, you know, Islam, whatever your religion is, imagination in the sky is the limit. Well, how about we have faith in ourselves? That's where it starts. It starts in believing in yourself, because once you exceed the limits of what this world has to offer you, I see beyond this world. I see far beyond this world. I see far beyond poverty and people having to pay taxes on money that they earned and parking tickets and paying for water and paying for electricity. And not to say that I don't have to pay bills, because I do, but I am not limited to the small scale and scope of this world that white people have created for themselves and that we are paying to be a part of. Can you imagine a world where you don't have to pay bills for electricity that is natural to the planet?
The same day.
Can you imagine that? Right. Not having to pay a gas bill? Who the hell gave you the right to charge the people of the earth, regardless of what race, money for water? The earth is 75% water, bruh. They're charging us for water. So if you can't even, you know, they say without vision, where there is no vision, the people will perish. We can't even see beyond a world of racism, white supremacy. So to me, you say, how do you exceed, you know, the contradictions, if you will? Build your own schools. If you're self-employed, you don't have to worry about some, you know, whatever race, somebody keeping their foot on your neck, somebody trying to keep you down. So this is why when our children are in school and when our children are going to college, this whole idea of going to school to get a job, no. Claude Anderson talked about going to school or developing a trade or developing your mind to build a business. We should be teaching our children and our young people be self-employed. think self-employed first before you ever own a business. It all starts in the mind. And I know you know, because I listen to your shows, the whole idea of embracing a concept in your mind or an idea. I'm looking at the book The Secret right now. The craze that came back in the 90s that talked about putting up pictures of something that you want or you desire and looking at it and thinking about the car you want, and then envisioning what it's going to smell like and how it's going to feel when you drive it around. We have no idea the power of our minds. I remember when I was a young girl, my uncle had an apartment. I was like 7 or 8, and I loved this apartment so much. And I said all throughout my years, as he moved, I never saw it again. I said, when I grow up, I'm going to get this apartment. When I turned 18, I left from California and came back. I was in Oklahoma and then Dallas for 2 years. Do you know when I came back, I looked to find an apartment for a rent, and that very apartment was for rent? And I went and talked to the manager and signed the lease that day, gave the guy my check, and ended up living there for 7 years. So it's taking down the walls that have been placed on our minds, who we think we are and what we think we can achieve, and believing in ourselves. That's the first thing. Then studying. Whatever your natural talent is, go after that. Stop thinking about getting a job. Yes, we have to survive, but at the same time, survival is not just money and having a roof over your head. It's feeding your creative mind, feeding your creative spirit. So it's those two things aren't contradictions. There are limits that we are going to obtain in the system of racism, white supremacy. So let's build a new world.
And with that said, Brother Rich, I think I just need to reinforce the fact that we need to start thinking, imagining a world way beyond us being with white people. If we can't begin to get young people to understand that once upon a time, white people weren't here.
Okay.
But hold on, you say, okay, so fast, Brother Rich, but you don't think that way. We don't think that way. Me and Zaz are going to we're going to begin to put together a homeschool curriculum. We ain't thinking about white people. We're not thinking about white people. And when we start the chapter on European American history, we're going to start with them when they rusty asses was in the caves. You understand what I'm saying? A very real history of who these people are. Plain and simple. There's nothing new under the sun, Brother Rich. And we need to understand that. We had great civilizations, Brother Rich, and these are some of the things that our people need to be taught. So some of these concepts and some of these things that you're asking, that question is not far-fetched. Me and Zaza think way beyond the scope of what white people, the cage and the barrel, and all these other contraptions, the projects and all this other madness that white people put us in. I'm holding a book called 101 Black Inventions. Nobody white mentioned, man. Nobody white, from rubber to rugs to rope to refrigerators to mops to paper bags, peanuts, all kind of stuff is in this book, man. Martial arts, marble, mathematics, lamps, gas masks, irons, generators, engines, fire engines, condoms. I don't give a fuck what it is. The internet. White people ain't mentioned in this, man. So there is a world without white people. And we need to understand it and begin to imagine that. So I want to imagine a nation without them and move beyond their scope and the destiny that they have set for black people, which is genocide.
And Brother Rich, just to close this out on my end at least, were you finished? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, it's like it probably sounds, somebody's going to hear this and be like, yeah, but that sounds good, but my rent is due tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Y'all talking all of that, fast forward, all of that down the line type stuff, but I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to eat right now. Well, start with your household. You know what I'm saying? First of all, start with your house. It should be clean. You shouldn't be cluttered and having junk everywhere and cobwebs all over the house and dishes piled up in the sink, and you think that you're going to have clarity of mind. If you're surrounded by dirt and dust and dysfunction, then that's what's going to be inside your head. So start there. Clean your house up. Clean your spirit up. Meditate. Listen to productive music. Stop watching the boob tube, watching, reality TV and all this insanity, and watch Discovery Channel. Watch the History Channel. Start thinking with your third eye. Start questioning things. Stop looking at it and look in it, as Griff always says. So start small. Change your diet. Stop eating pork chops and ham hocks and oxtails and all this poisonous meat. All of it's poison. Start slow. Cut out meat. Then cut out fish. Then cut out dairy.
And cut out the white woman.
Then cut out, that's first.
Griff, I heard you. Oh, man.
Take back. All of us, obviously, Brother Rich, you deal with the medicine. We can't tell the brother on the, sit down and have a conversation on that level. He's got that. So start small, and then as you see success transpire in your life, then things start becoming attainable. Then you'll get that job where you can save that money so you can get that business license so you can start the business you've always wanted. Go take those college courses. If you're interested, you have an interest, go, get the ball rolling. Make a start towards it. You don't have to know how it's going to happen, but know that it's going to happen.
All right.
I'd like to take this time to thank Professor Griff and Sister Zaza Ali for being on the show today. And I want to give this opportunity for y'all to give your contact information as usual for all the new listeners out there to contact y'all, hit y'all up for information about whatever you got going on. Go ahead, y'all.
All right, first of all, Brother Richard, let people know that Professor Griff and Zaza Ali have not went anywhere. Please tune into our show every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 to 10 Eastern Standard Time. It's Enemy Minds Radio. It's at www.blogtalkradio.com/Minds Matter. MINDZMATTER. All right, the call-in number is 347-633-9644. You can reach us at Enemy Minds Radio on Twitter, and you can reach us at Enemy Minds Radio on Facebook. My Facebook page is Ex-Minister. My phone number is 678-557-2919. And I want to leave you with this quote as I pass the phone to Zaza. George Jackson says, an armed attacker cannot be ignored.
Say that again, Professor Griff.
George Jackson said an armed attacker cannot be ignored. Plain and simple. Do not bring a goddamn slingshot to a knife fight.
My Facebook page is Zaza Ali. I believe you gave all the rest of the information right. Enemy Minds Radio at Facebook. And Brother Rich, I kind of feel like you want to say some conciliatory words to us, like, I love y'all. It's been nice, but we here. You don't have to worry. We definitely gonna continue doing the show because the people that we are reaching through this medium via your platform, we close to 1 million, right?
Yeah, tell this the book is coming out.
Yeah, the book is definitely coming out. We're going to transcribe some of the shows that we've done, compartmentalize them. We're going to add some images as well as some more, factual information to kind of supplement what we already do with you, and we're going to put that in book format so that we can give that to the people, hopefully get that to some of our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated and raise the consciousness of the people. But we appreciate you, Brother Rich. We'll be here next week. As long as we ain't talking about black celebrities, talking about black people, we'll be good. But I want to leave you with a quote from the American Directory of Certified Uncle Toms, since we are talking about Charles Barkley and Lemon. He says, those who study Uncle Tomism within the black race, either formally or informally, are assured of one unalterable constant. There is and will be a virtually endless supply of case studies. The brother and sisterhood of Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas is not only well-funded, but desperate to maintain the relative ease which they believe their effort and loyalty have produced for them. The Uncle Toms go along to get along, satisfied that the worsening plight of the suffering black masses is neither their responsibility nor their concern. And while these Toms are most assuredly entitled to their chosen lifestyle, blacks today have much more to say about the bootlickers and buck dancers among them. The Council on Black Internal Affairs has met to nominate and elect the next wave of ham bones and foot shufflers whose lives and works will be analyzed for their value to black community rebirth and progress. So we nominate Don Lemon as well as Charles Barkley, as well as, what's her name last week we did? Raven Simone, as well as Lil Bossy, as well as T.I., and yes, I am saying his name wrong intentionally. Yeah, you guys are going to go in the next edition of the American Directory of Certified Uncle Toms.
Brother Rich, we really appreciate you, and we want to send one last message to Mr. Charles Barkley and Don Lemon. Both of y'all can get the dictionary and look up the words that we're using tonight, all right? Both of them, I'll say it again. Both of them can get the dictionary.
Come on,
you get the dictionary. I'm saying dictionary.
Man. Come on, man.
I'm saying the dictionary, man. Can I say dictionary?
Man. Come on, it's a fair.
Take it up the dictionary and look up these words that we're using because we're spot on. Both of them.
All right. This is Brother Rich, Underground Railroad Radio. Professor Griff, Sister Zaza Ali. We signing out, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.